get the morning light, avoid bright light in the evening, late at night and throughout the night. So that's so there's a do and a don't there. Train hard for, 45 minutes to 60 minutes, 2 to 4 times a week, right? I think that's reasonable. So warm up and then go hard for 45 to 60 minutes. You could do the Duncan French protocol, or you could do something similar, but past 60 minutes, unless you have superb recovery capacity, if you try and push for 2 hours at max capacity, you will have an increase in cortisol and a decrease in testosterone. If you rest 3 days, you'll be fine. If you're one of those genetic freaks that can do that repeatedly, fine. But for most people, really intense effort for 45 to 60 minutes, maybe 75, maybe 90. Again, it's not like a gate shuts, right? A few, some ab work at the end of your workout or a little neck work or something isn't going to send cortisol into the roof. But if you finish your squats and then you deadlift and then you leg press and you're up into the 2 hour range, you're going to drop your testosterone, no question.
Yeah.
Okay. So do that 2 to 4 times a week. Then also, it is important, and this is often overlooked, to get some level 2, zone 2 cardio 2 to 4 times a week. This is the reason it's overlooked is that people forget how testosterone is actually liberated into the body to do what it does, both for the brain and for the muscles, and that's all mediated by vasculature. And so you need your cardiovascular system working well. When people say, well, no, I know guys who are just blasting T and they don't do any cardio. Okay, but that's different because they're overriding the system, right? But for most people, they shy away from doing cardio. Now, I do think that the evidence that sprinting, that HIIT type workouts can increase testosterone is quite good. And those sort of serve as more like a weight training workout. I'm talking about zone 2 cardio, so where it's a little bit uncomfortable to have a conversation. Watch one of Mark's posts where he's out there pushing, walking, and he's talking, and you can tell he can get the sentences out, but he's right on that edge where if he went any faster or harder, he might have to catch his breath.
Keel over.
Right. So that like twice a week. Jiu-jitsu, okay. And that brings up another thing. If you really want to get into the behavioral tools, competition induces the release of testosterone, even if you lose. So there was stuff written in the early 90s about, day traders who, if they lose money, their testosterone drops. The evidence is okay. It's not great. Wins definitely increase testosterone, sure. But competition is great. So it could be competition with yourself, but interspecies competition, intra and interspecies competition. So the hunters understand what I'm talking about. I'm not a hunter, but Andy Galpin, he's really into hunting. And I remember Joe Rogan was telling me on the podcast I did with him last was when I went on his podcast, he was talking about hunting and this is a primal relationship to the world. Now, most of us, including me, aren't hunters. So what does this look like? It's jiu-jitsu, it's soccer, it's even playing pool. Competition is good, and be willing to lose. I mean, one of the things that we have to get comfortable with is losing and still feeling the lift that we got from competing. Anytime that you have to push against some resistance, external or internal, you are in a great place to increase dopamine and testosterone. I deal with this challenge on a regular basis. So I wake up in the morning, there's so many things that are easy and distracting or just boring and fill the time. But I've learned that if I can struggle with something, get a paragraph out of it, get through a hard analysis for a paper or something like that, really struggling with it, when you finish it, you feel great. And my colleague at Stanford, Anna Lemke, has a great book. I'll plug it since it is so great. It's called Dopamine Nation. And she talks about, a lot of it's about addiction, but she has a chapter in there about pain and how ice baths and workouts and things like that, when you engage in pain, and I don't mean physically damaging pain, but pain like training and those kinds of things, that afterwards there's a long release of dopamine, much longer than you would get from any drug. So the pain that you experience then, or from an ice bath or something, it's going to carry over into a long release of dopamine. But the dopamine starts about 30 minutes after you cease this painful experience. Again, non-tissue damaging pain.
What happens from there?
That dopamine continues to rise until 2.5 hours later, and then it starts to taper off. But it doesn't go below baseline for almost 24 hours. So as you start to lose that dopamine increase, there isn't necessarily a compensation unless it's something that has a huge release. So a good example would be the push, the yin and yang of dopamine is a hormone called prolactin. Now, prolactin is a really interesting hormone. Right? It is associated with milk letdown in females as part of the lactation pathway, oxytocin.
And men, right?
And men. And expecting fathers, their prolactin goes up, and it helps them put on body fat, retain body fat from the same caloric load, right? Same caloric load in the presence of prolactin, more body fat. What you find is that there are hormone effects that can override or at least adjust that equation, okay? So this is to prepare parents of all species for care of the young. Now, prolactin and dopamine have a very magical relationship during mating and reproduction. So desire to mate, it increases dopamine and testosterone. Okay, mating itself. Under those circumstances, dopamine is released. So during sex, dopamine is released. But after orgasm and ejaculation, this is key because there's a lot of questions about this on the internet. Prolactin levels go up and dopamine levels drop. Why? Well, pair bonding in our species is very important. And if we were the type of species where immediately after mating, we were going off seeking another mate, a lot of our social structures wouldn't look the way they do. Okay? There are species of animals that just mate with as many as they can. But even there, the capacity to mate is set by how much prolactin is around. It inhibits further sexual behavior. How do we know this? Well, things that blunt prolactin allow for a shorter refractory period in males.
Dr. Aris Thorne, a neuroscientist, had spent years researching the hormonal pathways of the brain. His focus was on testosterone, a hormone he believed held the key to unlocking human potential. One day, after countless trials, he made a groundbreaking discovery. A specific combination of deep meditation and rhythmic breathing could double testosterone levels. He presented his findings at a conference, but the scientific community was skeptical. Many dismissed it as pseudoscience. Undeterred, Aris began demonstrating his technique publicly. He led small groups through his meditation and breathing exercises, and everyone noticed an increase in their energy and focus. The participants reported feeling stronger and more confident. Word spread quickly, and soon, people from all walks of life were seeking out Aris. He became a mentor, teaching his method to anyone who wanted to improve their physical and mental state. People felt more in control of their lives. Aris knew he had stumbled upon something profound. It wasn't just about testosterone. It was about tapping into the body's own power to heal and enhance itself. He was determined to share his knowledge and help others unlock their potential. His method was simple, accessible, and effective. Aris had not only found a way to double testosterone, but he had also shown the world that sometimes the most powerful solutions are already within us. The impact of his work rippled through society, changing how people approached health and self-improvement. He had successfully revealed the hidden potential of the human body, one breath at a time. It was a simple technique, yet its power was transformative.